guys, and welcome to HomeScreen. Tonight we got a special guest, Tyler Krszjzaniek from Handful of Handsome.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's good to be on here.
No problem.
All right, so we're going to start out our special nostalgic episode with one of the original Call of Duty's Finest Hour.
Yes.
This is one of the original ones before they kept copying and pasting them over and over. What do you think about it, actually?
Well, the thing about Call of Duties is, I started out with Medal of Honor, as so did Tyler.
Right.
Call of Duty came out, I'm like, oh, it's so much different. It's, more fast-paced. It's super, super fun. And I played the crap out of it. Like, after, my time with Medal of Honor, I played so much Call of Duty. And this was back when Call of Duty was back in World War II. Thing is, back then, this was like early 2000s. World War II games were a dime a dozen.
Yeah, they were fresh.
Yeah.
Well, at first, when Call of Duty first came out, they were relatively fresh. But then as time went on, there was millions of them.
Yeah.
Like, honest to God.
That's right. Yeah, with as far as back of Call of Duty and Modern or Medal of Honor, I played more Medal of Honor because there was more multiplayer. I don't think the original Call of Duty had multiplayer.
Not split screen, no.
No. And I specifically remember playing Medal of Honor for the GameCube versions were some of my favorites back in the day. Rising Sun had cooperative play.
Yeah.
Nowadays, going back and playing them isn't really as much fun as it was back then, but you can definitely see some of the flaws and the really scripted moments. But of course, they're classics in their own right.
Yeah. And it's Medal of Honor Frontline actually always holds a true thing in my heart because that was the first-person shooter I ever played. Like, that's really what brought me into the first-person shooter world. I'm like, man, it's so realistic.
You feel like you're in the action.
Yeah. And then Call of Duty came out, and I'm like, oh, this must be just like Medal of Honor. And it was better. Like, it was. Yep. Like, you could look down the sights. Like, it was more fast-paced, better graphics. It was a better game. And today, now they're copying and paste. Well, our opinions on Call of Duty on this show. And we're not too appreciative.
But the first one's good, though.
Yeah, the first few are good.
I kind of like them. So the next game we have is Madden, just in general. I mean, we don't talk a lot about like big name games or anything like that. So Madden is one. I started playing Madden when I was a little kid. Now I go to Walmart tournaments, win the money, and spend it on other stuff now because I feel like this is almost copy and paste now too. Ever since I think the last one I bought was 12 or something like that.
Madden is one of those games that you can't really change a lot. That's the thing.
Well, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Exactly.
I mean, the thing is too is there's always something that's wrong with the game. Like, I always like to call them Jesus linebackers, and they always jump up 10 feet in the air and they pick something off. But sometimes they get rid of stuff and then they like take it out and then they're like, oh, this is a new feature, and I'm just thinking, well, you just had this 3 years ago. You just put it back in.
Yeah.
It's kind of
I like
annoying.
how all like the newer sports games, instead of like adjusting the gameplay, which they can't really do, they've just added like extreme detail to the players, like the facial expressions and stuff they make are like so realistic. It's stupid.
It's like, well, they can't do anything else. The thing is, like, what I want to see them do is every time I play, FIFA or Madden, I just want them to add better crowds. I mean, the crowds are just so, like, you look into the crowds and the same thing over and over and over.
The crowds have been the same since like 05 or something
exactly.
like that.
And like, why don't you change those up a little bit? Instead of making, I don't want to see the bead of sweat on Marshawn Lynch's nose. I'd rather see, some, people in the stand eating hot dogs, or I don't know, more hot dogs.
Yeah. Add more food to the game. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with Madden is if your team isn't really doing well that year, the roster it's not going to be that great. But when I was younger, Madden wasn't really that good back in the 90s. Some of the technology wasn't quite there, but I was always more of an NFL Blitz kind of guy. And Midway, the company that made this, they're not really too big anymore, but NFL Blitz is like football with no rules. You can make tackles after the plays are done, and you can just stomp on people. You can throw after. You can run like 10 yards, throw, and then go for a touchdown.
Or you could just tackle their receiver going out for a pass. I'd love that game too.
Oh, yeah. Blitz, I know they tried remaking it to be a little bit more mature with the league.
Blitz the league,
You could do like steroids and stuff like that. And I don't think it was considered that good, if I don't remember. I never played it, but
it was super adult, and I was playing it. I'm like, oh, this is, I'm like 14. I'm like, and I'm game, and I'm playing. I'm like, oh my god, like I shouldn't even be playing this. Like this is bad.
Oh man. Also, right here you have the Madden 2000.
And the 64th Madden in the series, Madden 64, of course.
I love the cover art for those.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
Back when
Yeah.
Madden was actually
Yeah.
on the
It's like,
game.
you guys take a picture, and he's like, oh crap.
So it's like, this is my game. He's like, I made this game. Like on the Super Nintendo ones, he'd always be like, I'm back with another new game, guys.
Yeah. Another.
Yep.
But the next game we have is Star Wars Battlefront, and I know Max really loves this game.
I do. I have a copy for it for PC. I have a copy for it for for the PS2. I have both Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2 for the PS2. And it's, oh man, I can't get enough of Battlefront. And the new one's coming out. I'm so pumped. Like
Yeah.
2 years ago when they announced it at E3, I was screaming like a little girl. Just like,
Yeah, it's one of those games where the replayability on it is like just insane. Like I've spent so much time playing this just split screen with my friends, just game after game, because you can just set up so it goes through all the maps and you just play nonstop forever.
And you don't see a new map until you go through the 15, 20 maps.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have I got a version on my computer that it added the maps from the original game. And the original game included spaceships on the
On the planet, so you could
yes,
go.
on the planets, because in Battlefront 2, all you could use space vehicles was in the space battles, and they added them on land, and it was just so much better. I just can't get enough of this game. And when this new one comes out, dime to a dollar, I'm going to be very scarce because I'll be playing it.
Yeah, I mean, the time is better than ever, now with online being so sophisticated and everything. And, Battlefront, the series, is just perfect for online play. I don't remember if the PS2 had the net play available for Battlefront. I don't remember exactly because I was not much of a PS2 guy.
I never had good enough internet for that, so I have no idea.
Right.
But, I absolutely adore Battlefront. And it's, like, the thing is, Battlefront 2 came out around the time when Episode 3 came out.
The third movie came out. Yeah.
And so that really dates it. Like,
And
it's old. Like the first Battlefront came out when a heck of a lot earlier. It still holds up. Like it really does. Like I was playing it the other day. I'm like, man, this looks good for being from like 2004.
Yeah.
It's a good game.
And I think as difficult as it is for a game to capture everything in the Star Wars universe
Exactly.
and like put it in a game, they've done an insanely well job. I mean, I don't think there's any other Star Wars games out there that really hold up to.
Oh no, there aren't.
Battlefront.
Like they tried to with the Force Unleashed. And
It's just not.
the thing is, Battlefront is like you're a grunt in Star Wars.
Yeah.
You're not one of the big, big players. You they added Heroes mode in Battlefront 2.
Yeah, in Battlefront 2, that was probably my favorite thing they
It
added
was.
was to just run around with the lightsaber and be like,
Yeah.
I'm a Jedi. Like you actually got to feel what it was like to just be cutting
Yeah.
down clone troopers.
All right.
That's what I loved about it so much.
All right. So for the next game, we have Crash Bandicoot.
Oh.
I love this game. The footage we're going to show is from the second one. This, just like the Spyro, is the two games that I used to play all the time when I was a little kid. I mean, you've seen me play it.
Oh,
How'd
yeah, all
you
the time.
think of it?
It's you tried speed running it the other day, and jeez, I've never played Crash Bandicoot. Like everybody always talks about it, and I had never seen any gameplay, didn't know what it was, and I saw him playing it, and I'm like, man, this is like a super wacky different version of Mario. Like it's basically Sony's answer to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they wanted something like Sonic, but they wanted to switch it up to make it so they had something iconic. So I know in Japan it was really big.
It was big here too.
Yeah, I mean it was super. Like they had like weird commercials, like those weird Japanese commercials, like
Yeah.
every other day.
You mean all of
about
them?
it. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I really love this franchise. I mean, I really haven't played past CTR, which was the first three, and then there was CTR. But I mean, I love this game, and I don't know. This is the one game that I always come back to and try to beat. And I can only speed run it 100% in an hour and a half. So some people have it down to like 40 minutes, and I have no idea how.
It's crazy. Yeah, the series itself it's really high quality as far as on the PS1. I know later on the series started to get a little bit stale feeling. I think they were like Wrath of Cortex maybe I think was good. I don't remember exactly, but I think Crash 3 was probably the favorite of mine. And Crash Team Racing is actually really high quality too. I was surprised at how fun it is. You can, even if you're not that familiar with the characters, they're just fun to play as and look at. And the single player mode is actually a lot of fun too, and so challenging.
Thing is, it seems like every Japanese company has to put a kart racer into their game now. Yeah. You have Nintendo with their kart racing, and then you have Sony who did their kart racing with Crash, and then they add some more recently. But yeah, Crash is just one of those games that I always saw, because I grew up with the PS2, and I always saw it advertised every time I went to the store. People are like, people are buying Crash Bandicoot, and I saw it advertised, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't want it because it seemed too much like Mario. I mean, it's not, but it's a dang shame that I never got into it.
But yeah, so for the game, the next game actually is a Tony Hawk Pro Skater game.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater, there was 4 of them. I really liked them a lot. I knew there was Tony Hawk Underground 1 and 2. I never got to play 1, but I played number 2, and I speed there in that and beat that in 28 and a half minutes.
Oh,
so
nice.
that was something I did my junior year, so I can tell I wasn't very productive. But no, I really love this game. Did you ever play it or anything?
I've played it at friends' houses, and I wasn't really into skateboarding, but after I played it, I'm like, oh man, this is actually really cool.
Gotta go buy a skateboard.
Yeah, this was actually one of the first games. Pro Skater 2, I think, was one of the first games I ever played on PC.
Really?
And I was really sucky at it, but it was still really cool because it was skateboarding, and I remember they had a lot of cool Easter eggs in this game as well. Like you could get to a lot of cool little locations if you were able to jump far enough off the map and stuff.
Like what I remember is when I'd go to friends' houses, I'd always play as Darth Maul because I remember Darth Maul being one of the unlockable players, and I am and always will be a super big Star Wars fan, and I just always played as I'm like, oh, he's on a skateboard, he's doing all this cool stuff. Now it's one of the stupidest things I can ever think of me actually getting excited for.
This game had a map editor too, didn't it?
It did.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember this was one of the first ones I played where it had a map editor, and I was like, that is just insane that you can build your own little level and skate around.
You can put like lava and acid.
Yeah, just ridiculous stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Hawk's another series that kind of faded away. They tried to reestablish it. I think it's actually coming back either this year or next year. Tony Hawk is coming back, but they tried Tony Hawk Ride with that weird board.
That was like the biggest flop I think ever as one of the games. It was awful.
Gosh.
But yeah, the N64 versions. I have 1 and 2. There's also the 3rd, which was the last game released for the N64 in North America. I haven't gotten a hold of that one yet, but. The problem, what's great about cartridges is that they load instantly.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they only have so much space. So the music tracks are cut down to about 20-second loops and stuff like that. So
because the soundtrack was really good in this.
Yeah, I mean back when punk was big, back skateboarding was big,
that grunge.
even it's somewhat dated, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My friends and I, we would just turn it off and put on what was cool, like Blink-182, something like that.
Super edgy stuff, My Chemical Romance.
Oh yeah, just all the feels.
Tyler actually made a video that we're going to show you right now. It's about his bunch of the games that he has. Want to give a little bit background on that?
Yeah, I love the N64. I know a lot of people don't really like it as much as other systems, and some games haven't aged well. Some games have aged really well, surprisingly. And I just made a compilation of some of my favorite games for the system. I couldn't fit all of them because it was a limited amount of time, but I just want to show it off. So take a look.
The N64 is one of the most revolutionary systems in gaming history. It helped introduce gaming into the third dimension and added a whole new level of control to games with an analog stick. I have a lot of games to talk about and not a whole lot of time, so let's dive right in. What N64 game list would be complete without Super Mario 64? This game is responsible for creating 3D platformers by introducing explorable environments, secrets, and of course... Next up, Banjo-Kazooie. Developed by the legendary Rare Studios, added a ton of collectibles, upgradable moves, unique characters, and vast worlds to explore, all while having great music. Banjo-Tooie was a great follow-up to an already great game. It added crazier worlds, more upgrades, a variety of different game modes, big and rememberable boss fights, and the ability to split up Banjo and Kazooie to experience all new gameplay. It even added a fun multiplayer experience. Goemon's Great Adventure is a little known game that is a great experience alone, with 2 players, or even 4 players if you beat the game. There's lots of eccentric Japanese humor, and some of the coolest boss fights on N64, where you battle in giant robots with over-the-top special moves. Bomberman 64 is often overlooked as a great N64 game, but it has aged very well. As Bomberman, you must solve puzzles and defeat giant bosses to progress through the game. Collecting special cards adds to the challenge. What is unique about this game is that Bomberman cannot jump and must use bombs in unique ways to get up to higher platforms. In the later levels, this is really difficult. The multiplayer on this game is also one of the most frantic 4-player experiences on the console. Rocket Robot on Wheels is a game developed by the creators of Sly Cooper. It takes place in an amusement park taken over by an evil raccoon. You acquire upgrades, drive a variety of vehicles, and even get to build a roller coaster. The N64 had a lot of great racing games, and Mario Kart 64 is one of the best. The power-ups, mechanics, and fast gameplay make it still fun to play to this day. You may even discover new ways to speed up your times. Diddy Kong Racing is another kart-based game where you control airplanes, karts, and hovercrafts across a variety of colorful stages. It's well known for its other modes and engaging single-player experience. Stun Racer 64 is one of the rarer games for the N64, and it's a blast to play. Set in a futuristic 1950s setting, you race against classic cars and do stunts to gain speed and money. Playing in first-person mode with high-res graphics is a treat, and the customization options are excellent. In the 90s, the VW Beetle made a huge comeback. This comeback is eternalized in Beetle Adventure Racing, an awesome racing experience with shortcuts and power-ups galore. Blast Corps was a game with a unique premise. Clear a path for a nuclear missile carrier or face nuclear Armageddon. This game is remembered for its variety of vehicles, including several giant robots. Star Fox 64 is a series that unfortunately hasn't been touched in a while. It's one of the best N64 games, offering branching paths, cool boss battles, a variety of vehicles, and even multiplayer dogfights. While Super Smash Bros. Has evolved greatly since its humble beginnings on N64, it's fun to go back in time and see where it started. Beating up your favorite Nintendo character is satisfying and intense, and it's a classic multiplayer experience. Speaking of classic multiplayer, GoldenEye 007 is a game that should never be overlooked. Quite possibly the best movie tie-in ever. GoldenEye revolutionized first-person shooters by adding body-specific hitboxes, cinematic experiences, and legendary multiplayer action. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is widely considered to be one of the best games of all time. It offers an engaging storyline traveling across time, exploring a huge world and towns. Meeting interesting and mysterious characters while collecting items and upgrades is an experience that is not to be missed. The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask was a much darker Zelda game that 3DS owners thankfully get to re-experience. Link is in a whole new land and has to face the horrors of an evil mask. The whole game has you lying in fear of a giant moon that progressively gets closer and closer as time goes on. You have a limited amount of time to beat each dungeon. What was unique is that there are many side quests in the game. You acquire masks from fallen heroes that allow you to transform into different races and experience unique gameplay for each one. And the last fight is one of the most bizarre Zelda experiences, to say the least. Ogre Battle 64 is a very deep game that is a hybrid RTS and RPG. You will create different units comprised of different classes, each with their own abilities. Battles are quick, the customization is expansive, and the magic attacks are just awesome. Last but not least, Mario Party 2 is a multiplayer experience that will most likely make you hate your friends, while also having a blast. It's certainly a luck-based game, but it's still fun to play with 4 players. Many of the best mini-games from Mario Party 1 are remastered in this game, but it's definitely more fun in multiplayer than it is in single-player. Well, that's all the time I have. There are many great games that I did not have time to mention. Here are some of them. Take a look, and maybe you'll find a game you love. Thank you.
Man, Well, as you can see, Tyler's a big N64 guy. I never really got into N64. I was a Super Nintendo kid and then went right to the PS2. And you brought all these games here. I noticed that you brought Star Wars Rogue Squadron and Pokemon Stadium. You haven't really talked about yet.
Yeah, Rogue Squadron is a great game. It was one of the games that used the expansion pack. The N64 had a limited amount of RAM. Nowadays, you wouldn't even think about having RAM, that much RAM. But they can only have so many textures and everything. Oh, so this doubled the amount of RAM you could have. So you could have better textures and everything, and it was so cool. You could have a variety of different ships to fly as and everything. And the series continued with the GameCube and maybe like Xbox and PS2. I don't quite remember, but actually all the Star Wars games were pretty good on N64, including the Pod Racer game.
Yeah, I remember the Pod Racer game. That was pretty fun.
Which, despite being based on Episode 1, was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh man, Episode 1. We won't talk about that.
Yeah, I just want to say that Mario Party. Oof, I didn't know how much I hated my friends until I played that game with them.
Oh, it's brutal. Yeah, the items are you screw them over just so bad at the last moment.
It's infuriating. But we're gonna move on to The Sims now, I think.
Oh yes, The Sims. Now, deleting toilets never was so fun.
Or ladders in a pool.
Yep. And
or putting them in a tiny room with a fireplace.
This is really sadistic stuff that we're talking about here. But for anybody who doesn't know, which you should, but if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock for the past 20 years, The Sims is basically a game where you live. That's it. Like you live your life, and you make a house. You can do whatever you want. You can become a criminal. And it really preys on that aspect of games when it's doing things that you could never do in real life. That's really all it is.
Yeah, Max, like talking to a girl.
Yeah.
Just kidding. No, but I guess, if you're a loser in your real life, like myself, you can be a real winner in the virtual world. But, no, I'm sorry about that.
I just
good.
remember how you would acquire friends in this game. You would just repeatedly have to talk to them and you're my friend now, come over. You could just bring them over and they'd sit at your house awkwardly for hours. Well, I'm gonna go to bed now, so you should leave.
You could have a wife if you just flirt with them twice and impress them once or something.
I love you now. Yeah, but it's. And they came out with so many sequels. We're obviously talking about the original Sims because you can't beat the original. I really liked it. Sims 2, they created more 3D aspects that allowed you to move around. They actually made the Sims 2 for the PS2, which Jake likes to steal my PS2 a lot and play it. And they made the Sims 3, which was actually fairly good.
Yeah.
And the Sims 4 I heard was awful.
Yes, I did. I heard about that too.
And now the Sims have just become this really microtransaction-y expansion game.
Yep.
There's so many Sims expansions that and they're all $15.
Especially with the Sims 4, and that's the biggest problem. I was going to segue into, because the thing is with the Sims 4, it is all microtransactions. There is a minimal game that you initially start out on, and then they have you pay out the butt basically.
Yeah, and it's sad because it started out as such a unique game concept, and there's really nothing else like it as
really,
far as gameplay.
Yeah, and the thing about the original Sims, it did have its expansions, but they didn't come out till much later.
Yeah.
It was they had vacations, and they had all this other stuff that they were oh, we'll add this into the game. Now they're intentionally withholding content for the sake of money, and that is one of the most despicable things you can do as a gaming company.
But
they do that all too much.
We're gonna have to keep going ahead.
Oh,
Our next one is one of the original Pokemon games. The video I have is just for Pokemon Blue, but I know a lot of people play Pokemon. Some people haven't. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't. But I love playing Pokemon, and I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody else has. So I know Dwight and Max, you haven't. So
no, we've never played Pokemon.
Tyler, how'd you love Pokemon?
Oh, Pokemon. Yeah, the first system I ever had was N64, but I did get a Game Boy Pocket for my birthday. No color. It was still incredible, and Pokemon was one of the first games I had. And compared to newer Pokemon, the last one I played was Diamond on DS. But I know that things have changed quite a bit. But it's a lot slower than you might remember, or you might if you've experienced any new Pokemon games or anything like that. But it was nice because it was only 150 in the first one.
You could always do the glitch to get Mew. People are like, "How'd you do that?" Or I remember when I first got the game. When I first got to the game, I gotta admit, I was so stupid. I didn't know how to get out of the house. See, I didn't know you had to walk through the little carpet. So I was just like, how do I get out of my house? And I just couldn't do it.
Well, the thing I love about the Pokemon games is it's a game that's lasted so long and it stayed true to its roots, and it's something that parents who have kids now, like, they've played the game and their kids can play the game now too, and it's just a really wholesome game.
Yeah, it was one of the first reasons to actually get the link cable for the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Like, playing multiplayer Pokemon was just awesome.
And only some Pokemon like evolved if you traded them. So,
Yeah.
but our last game that we have, a lot of people played in middle school, is RuneScape. So that's our next game, RuneScape. It was the online MMO
Sensation.
sort of thing. Oh man, I remember waking up in 7th grade. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna train my mind in today, or train my, and then I just remember it's just all grinding. I'm just like, I was just like, oh man, I'm gonna log in. It's like last login 7 years ago or something, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this game is just grinding. This is how did I like this when I was?
And the interface for this game, looking back on it now, is just terrible. The inventory system, the way it's laid out, is just awful. Even the movement, you just gotta like click it to go anywhere.
It was programmed in JavaScript, I think, actually. So, which is impressive in its own right. But I recently tried to get back on. I noticed that they've changed it completely. There's actually a downloadable client, and they've upgraded the graphics and everything. And I couldn't find my old character or anything like that. I don't remember my password. So
that's a shame.
Rest
You
in
could have
peace.
Boosted them up after all those years of grinding.
Oh yeah. I remember I begged my mom for a membership account, and when I got it, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Because the free world, you had just a tiny little space.
It's limited.
And the membership, you could do like new abilities. Like I don't remember what it was exactly. Something with like gems.
Yeah,
maybe.
and you could like build houses, I think, and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and,
the
like,
houses.
thousands of new quests you could do. Just so much was added.
The thing about RuneScape is my only experience with it was because my internet was awful at home because I live in my hometown in the middle of nowhere, and I would go to the town library and go onto the free account, and I would just be there for like hours playing RuneScape. Thinking about that now, that is super sad. But
The guy in the corner.
yeah, I'm that one guy who would sit and play RuneScape. But all in all, it really was a good game. Like I remember all I would really do was mine, just like Jake, because it was really. I didn't really like fighting. I just was like, oh, I'm gonna get all this. Cool
I remember
stuff.
just staying up late with my buddies, and we'd be up to like 2 a.m, running around on Minecraft. Like, we gotta get some more trees chopped, boys. Come on. Like, that's how we spent our time.
I mean,
Like,
RuneScape, not Minecraft.
yeah, RuneScape.
Minecraft is a different show.
Yeah, I remember the people in the game were really strange too. People would be like trying to buy girlfriends and stuff.
Yeah.
Find Jeff and Lundy.
A girlfriend, please.
I remember there were so many like hacked bot accounts running around too. Like there'd just be like 4 identical characters all like running around like programmed to do one thing, and you'd just be like, "What is going
Or
on?"
you'd get bored grinding one thing, so you'd grind something else. I remember I got bored of grinding mining, so I just baked pies for people. And I'm like, do you want a pie? Here you go. And they're like, oh, man, you're cool. And I'm like, man, I'm cool on the internet. But,
Yeah. All right.
But
Yeah, this is right when like World of Warcraft came out too. So like this is like the best alternative.
Yeah.
We're so sorry we can't get to recommends today. We went over time. We'll make sure to get those to you next week. Thank you so much, Tyler, for coming in. Really appreciate it, having a 4th person on the team. Make sure to follow us on Facebook. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Remember, TV10 HomeScreen. Next week, we're going to be showcasing the PS4, so tune in for that. And anything else you want to add?
No, guys, stick around, and we'll be on every Tuesday, I guess.